Once upon a time there was a Class D personnel waiting in his cell for a guard to take him to be tested with SCP-173. As he waited, his cell door opened and he saw a guard. The guard told him to come out of his cell and follow him.
Sorry, Freeman.
They walked to SCP-173 containment cell. There was 2 other D-class personnel standing outside the containment cell. The guard commanded for all of the D-class to enter the containment cell. As all of them came in, the door closed and then reopened, the guard said that there was a problem with the door control and that they should keep eye contact with SCP-173. But the D-class blinked, breaking the eye contact with SCP-173, causing SCP-173 to snap the 2 D-class personnel. He ran outside the containment cell and stood on the side of it as the lights turned red. The D-class realized that the whole facility of Site-17 was under a containment breach. He walked out of the room. He had to find keycards to access the Alpha warhead or to escape without getting killed by the other SCPs or the guards and the 9-tailed fox. If he was found by any of these, they would kill him. The first thing he noticed was that the doors to the rooms were locked from the inside. There was no way to get in or out. The only option left is to try and break down the door locks and hope that someone has keys to open them up. He decided to search for keys to open the door. He remembered that he had some spare clothes in his locker, so he put those on and started searching.
Oh yeah, style.
It takes a few minutes, but eventually he found something that might work, a level 1 keycard. He grabbed the keycard and tried to open the door. It seemed like it should work, but when he tried to do so he felt very sick and dizzy. He fell back onto his bed coughing up blood as he vomited into a trash bag. He wondered if the keycard was an SCP with anomalous properties that made him feel sick. The D-class thought about what happened to him and how he could avoid this happening again. He didn't want to die, but at the same time he didn't want to get infected either. If he stayed there, then the infection would spread faster and infect more people. He sat down and began looking around for some kind of medicine. He didn't know where else to look, so he just searched everywhere. He found a bottle of cough syrup and another one labeled anti-nausea, but nothing that would help him at the moment. He decided to take all the medicine anyway and felt better immediately and continued to search until he finally found some pills in a small box. He quickly swallowed them before they made their way into his system too much.
Health.
He continued to search until he finally found a level 3 keycard. He put it in the lock and unlocked the door. He entered the room and closed the door behind him. The room looked exactly like his own except it didn't. He pressed the button on the wall panel and the door opened up. There was a large computer screen hooked up to several monitors. He walked over to the monitor and saw a man in a lab coat sitting at his desk typing away at his keyboard. The scientist nodded and smiled.
Who are you?
He didn't answer the D-class. Instead he continued to type away at his keyboard. The scientist nods and smiles. The D-class walked over to the door and knocked on it twice. The scientist turned around slowly and stared at you for a moment.
Do you know how to leave the Foundation?
He didn't respond directly. Instead he spoke softly.
I'm sorry, sir, but I don't.
The D-class sighed deeply and turned away from him.
Then let me out of here.
I can't let the D-class leave the Foundation. It's against the rules. Yes, I suppose it is.
The D-class shrugged his shoulders and continued to knock on the door. The man suddenly stands up from his chair and walked towards the other. He grabbed his shoulder and pushed him backwards, knocking him flat on the floor.
Hey, why did you do that?
He didn't reply directly. Instead he spoke softly.
Because I care about you, sir. I love you.
I guess I love you too.
The man smiled and nodded as if he agreed with what he said. He then turned around and began to walk away. The D-class followed after him, but he stopped abruptly.
What's wrong?
The scientist turned around and looked at him. His face showed anger and sadness.
I just realized something. I love her too.
The D-class looked down at himself and realized that he was wearing the same clothes as she was last time they had
Shit.
spoken.
You can only choose one of us.
He stopped him and grabbed his arm. He pulled away from the D-class and said,
No. She's gone now. We have to be together.
The D-class pulled him into an embrace and kissed him passionately, which caused him to release a small yelp of surprise.
We should leave the Foundation and start a new life together. Can you help me find a way out?
He pulled him closer and kissed him passionately, which caused him to release a small yelp of surprise.
Let's go.
The scientist held onto him tightly and began to tear up and cry.
Cry.
It'll be okay. I've always loved you.
He responded by kissing the D-class back.
Let's go.
The D-class smiled and nodded as he grabbed his hand and began to run off. As soon as they reached the door, they slammed it shut behind them. They turned around and saw a large metal door with a giant picture of a man holding 2 children over his heart. It read, SCP-173 Object Class, SCP-173. This room contains many items that are either very dangerous or extremely useless.
Snap.
The D-class's eyes widened as he heard his lover scream. He quickly rushed towards the source of the noise. The screaming has stopped though, so he didn't know if he was dead yet or not. He saw his lover laying dead on the floor with his neck twisted. Next to him was SCP-173. He slowly approached SCP-173. It seemed like it hasn't moved since he entered the room. He picked up his lover's body and placed it on top of SCP-173. He then pressed down hard on the object until he felt a slight vibration through it.
Did you kill him?
Yes, I did.
He stared at SCP-173 for a moment before saying,
That's what you were doing earlier? Killing people?
SCP-173 didn't respond. Instead, it simply continued to vibrate.
It's bad to kill people. You shouldn't do it.
I'm sorry, but I had to. If we're going to live together, then we need to work things out.
He continued staring at SCP-173 as he tried to figure out how he wanted this relationship to end. He hugged SCP-173 and said,
I forgive you. We can still live together.
He hugged SCP-173 again and said,
Then let's make this our home.
The D-class began hugging SCP-173 tightly as he began to fall asleep. When he woke up, SCP-173 containment cell has been turned into a little house for the two of them to live in. He walked inside and immediately recognized it as his old bedroom from when he lived there. He walked into the kitchen and saw SCP-173 sitting at a table cooking breakfast. 173 looked up from his food and smiled at the D-class.
Hello. I'm Mr. Ecto-Cooler.
Nice to meet you, sir.
He decided to play along with SCP-173 charade.
I love you and I'll always be there for you.
Ha ha ha, don't worry about me. I've got everything under control now.
They hugged and kissed each other goodbye as the D-class left the containment chamber. He walked to his car, started the engine and drove off.
I wonder what kind of day it's going to be.
He wondered what kind of day it's going to be. The end.